We'll call this meeting to order. This is the Planning and Land Use Management Committee. I'm Councilmember Huizar. I've been joined by Councilmember Marquise Harris-Dawson, Councilmember Gilbert Cedillo, Councilmember Mitch Englander, and our new addition to this committee, replacing Councilmember Felipe Fuentes, Councilmember Curran Price. So welcome, Mr. Price. We'll get started. I understand item number one, report from the Director of Planning. There's no report. Any questions for our Planning Director, Mr. Bartoni? Seeing none, we'll receive and file item number one. Item number three, if there are no cards, we could approve on consent. No objection. Item number four has cards. Item number 7 has cards. 8 has cards. And item number 9, we will receive and file in as much as the application has been withdrawn. Item number 9, receive and file. The application has been withdrawn. So that takes us back to our consent calendar, that we will hear some items based upon public comment cards. We'll start with item number 4.
Councilmember Huizar, Terry Kaufman, Macias City Attorney's Office. If the council member has rules regarding people speaking at the meeting, perhaps it would be a good time to announce those rules now.
Thank you. We just want to be clear about some rules in this committee with respect to public speaking. I would like to establish the rules for this committee regarding public comment. A member of the public wishing to speak on more than one agenda item at a single meeting shall limit his or her remarks on agenda items to a total of 5 minutes per meeting. A member of the public may allocate time between items in 1-minute increments per item, up to 5 minutes total. As chair, I will provide up to 2 warnings to any individual speaking out of turn, off agenda, or otherwise disrupting the proceedings. Thank you. So we'll turn to item number 4, please.
Sure. Item 4, Councilman. This is a motion by Councilman Cedillo, Fuentes. It's instructing city planning and the city attorney to prepare a draft ordinance to establish an opt-in pilot program for second dwelling units with the parameters of a maximum size of 1,000 square feet.
Thank you. We had scheduled this for consent. There are public cards on this, so we'll hear public comment. No need for a report from staff. First speaker is Carlisle Hall, and second speaker is Patricia McAllister.
Thank you, and good afternoon, members of the committee. I am Carlisle Hall, and I'm speaking against the proposed motion. We don't need a pilot project to study 1 second unit in each district, because we've effectively had a giant pilot project for the last 6 years when the department and the building department, planning and building departments both, were violating the law consistently and routinely. So we have approximately 200 out of the 300 units or so that were issued in the last 6 years were in violation of the law and exceeded the minimum standards. So all we really need to do is go out and have the planning department drive around and see these. I'm going to hand in some photos at the end of my testimony showing you just a few of the really bad examples of what has been built in excess of our city's adopted standards in the last 6 years. Secondly, I just had a couple of questions.
Thank you. Your time is up, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Patricia McAllister.
I'm familiar with the zoning department. I'm from Chicago, and I used to attend those meetings. And I know you have the plans for the city for the next 50 years, and I want to know what it is. I disagree with these units because I think they're units that are being built for illegal aliens. They're the people who are getting the housing, not the citizens, because the citizens are on the street. All you have to do is drive around and look at the tents. You have to come after 6 o'clock because you guys told them they couldn't put the tents up before 6 p.m. So I'm against this because, as we know, illegal aliens, they pile into these 2-bedroom apartments 50 at a time. So now you're letting them build these little units so that they can put more illegal aliens out in the back. I'm against it. I think we need to be using the zoning department for building affordable housing for the citizens of this city and not for illegal aliens. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll approve this item without objection. Any objections? None, so ordered. Item number 7, again, a scheduled consent item. We have one public speaking card. Leslie, can you read item 7 to the record, please?
Sure. Councilman, item number 7, this is a report from the City Planning Commission. It's a zone change and a general plan amendment for the construction of four single-family homes in CD 15.
Thank you. Leslie Lombard. Leslie Lombard here? No? Do you wish to speak, ma'am? Ma'am, okay, nobody's stepping up for Leslie Lombard. We'll move on this item. Any objections to this item? Seeing none, so ordered. Thank you. Item number 8.
Item 8, Councilman, this is a report from the City Planning Commission. It's a zone change. It's for the use of 341,769 square feet for a building material sales on site in CD 7.
Thank you. Gary Warner.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm here representing the applicant and will be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you.
We support the recommendation of staff.
Okay, so we'll move to approve the recommendation of CPC in approving the zone change ordinance and MND. Any objections? Seeing none, so ordered. Okay, that gets us to items number 5 and 6. Can you read those into the record, please?
Sure. Item 5, Councilman, this is a report from the City Planning Commission. It's a general plan amendment and a zone change for the construction of 516 residential units located in CD 11.
Okay, and 6?
Councilman, this is a report from the City Planning Commission. It's a development agreement between Felina Properties LP and the City of LA. It's a 15-year development agreement that includes community benefits located in CD 11.
Okay, thank you. Per the advice of our City Attorney's Office, we are going to waive item number 5 and 6 to council without a hearing in this committee today. I understand there's an addendum missing from the EIR? From
the agenda description.
the agenda description, okay.
So my understanding is this item will have a public hearing in council on the 20th.
Yes, and who just spoke?
Terry Kaufman, Macias City Attorney's Office.
Thank you. And that's on the 20th, correct?
That's correct.
Yes, and is there a representative here from CD 11? For CD 11. Just on the procedural matters, without hearing this item today, you are okay with us moving forward to the 20th and waiving it out of committee?
That is correct. We were under the assumption that there would be an opportunity for public testimony today, given that we didn't find out about this hearing notice issue until approximately 30 minutes ago.
Okay. And our city attorney advises us, since we're waiving it out, we cannot hear public testimony today, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Okay, so I'm certainly not happy with how we were put in this situation. Primarily, the committees are a place for us to discuss and dialogue about the specifics about a project. And given the fact that it's a time-sensitive matter, that it has to be heard by a time certain, which is when? The 20th? I will waive it out of committee and have the hearing at full council on the 20th. Okay? So that is the direction we will go in. Anything else from the city attorney?
Just, you're speaking about 5 and 6.
5 and 6, yes. We want to keep the two matters together. Okay. Thank you. So items 5 and 6 waived out of committee. And if somebody could give my office, my planning director, a explanation as to how this happened and how we will prevent this from happening again in the future. City Clerk, can you please make sure my office receives that in writing? Thank you.
Of course, thank you.
Thank you very much. If anybody has any questions, this is not a question and answer session. I know somebody in the back is. Please come up and speak to the clerk or somebody else. Thank you very much. Item number 10.
Item 10, Councilman, this is an appeal submitted by Beth Doris, the offices of Beth Doris, on behalf of Mary Ann Buhner. This is a subdivision, a 10-lot subdivision located in CDs 4 and 13, and it relates to the Paramount picture-specific plan, and this is a track map appeal.
Okay. Welcome.
Hi there. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. My name is Adam Villani. I'm a city planner with the major projects assigned to the Paramount Studios Master Plan project. Item 10 is the only entitlement case before you today on the Paramount Studios Master Plan project. It consists of case numbers TT 717512A, the second level appeal of a tentative tract, and its associated environmental impact report, ENV 2011-2460-EIR. I should note that a letter was submitted on September 9th, 2016 by the department to the city clerk here that listed the environmental case number in error. It was listed as ENV 2007-2460-EIR. The correct case number is ENV 2011-2460-EIR. The other two cases associated with this project were heard before the Plum Committee last week, September 6, 2016, and both were approved. The project is defined by the Paramount Studios main lot at 5555 Melrose Avenue and its 6 ancillary lots nearby, although the tentative tract case covers only the main lot and the 2 ancillary lots south of Melrose Avenue. The tract map is for the merger and re-subdivision of land into 10 lots for the development of up to 1,385,700 net new square feet of floor area under the guidance of the Paramount Pictures specific plan. A vacation of a public alleyway bisecting one of the ancillary lots is also included. In terms of the environmental clearance, ENV 2011-2460 EIR, the notice of preparation was issued on October 13th, 2011, and a scoping meeting was held on October 27th, 2011. The draft EIR was published on September 10th, 2015, and circulated for a 47-day comment period. The final EIR was issued on April 14th, 2016, and an errata to clarify technical corrections was posted in July 2016. The public hearing for this project was held on May 16th, 2016 at the First Presbyterian Church in Hollywood, concurrent for all associated entitlement cases. It was attended by approximately 150 individuals, where 42 speakers were provided unrestricted time to speak. The Deputy Advisory Agency approved the tentative track map and certified the associated EIR with a letter of determination on June 7th, 2016, but an appeal was filed. The appeal and the related entitlement cases were taken concurrently before the City Planning Commission on July 14, 2016, which confirmed the certification of the EIR and denied in part the appeal of the tentative track map, while granting in part the appeal to permit technical corrections to the letter of determination of June 7, 2016. The other entitlement cases were approved with modifications. A second level appeal of the City Planning Commission's entire action and recommendation for appeal TT 717511A was filed on August 19, 2016. The appeal was filed by Beth S. Doris, representative on behalf of Mary Ann Bevener, an aggrieved individual. That appeal, TT 717512A, is before you today. Staff is available to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Great, thank you. We will now turn to public comment. The appellant and the applicant both have 5 minutes. All other public comment is 1 minute. The appellant, Beth Doris.
I'm Beth Doris. I represent Mary Ann Bewener, who has appealed the tentative track map approval and the EIR that is in support of both it and all other aspects of the proposed master plan Paramount Studio project. I mentioned the fact that the EIR applies to all other aspects because we have appealed it, and our appeal will not be complete until the City Council actually hears it, or hear it may not be the word, but is presented to the City Council after Plum. Yet tomorrow at 10 o'clock, the City Council is purportedly going to be certifying the same, or proposed to certify the same EIR. From a procedural standpoint, we have a big problem with our appeal being curtailed in this fashion. And note that from a legal standpoint, it would be appropriate to continue the consideration of other aspects of the master plan that deal with and require certification of the EIR before approval until our appeal is fully heard and determined. To do otherwise would be predetermination. It would also unfairly cut off our appeal rights. With respect to the tentative tract, the whole idea of the tentative tract is to take the main lot that Paramount has had and divvy it up into pieces, some of which, a small portion of which, would be historic and preserved, and the vast majority of which would suddenly be open to office towers up to 150 feet and retail of virtually all uses, including the sale of alcohol for consumption off-site even. By slicing and dicing the historic main lot of Paramount, the tentative tract does the exact opposite of one of the key objectives of the master plan Paramount Studios project. It says, go ahead, Paramount, leave. You can sell to the highest bidder, and we're going to give you all kinds of fancy entitlements in the specific plan that is endorsed in this tentative tract, and that'll make it even more enticing to sell off the vast majority of the Paramount lot because these entitlements are so valuable. How could any sane businessman not do that? What we've proposed here is signage that nobody else can have in that area without a similar kind of extraordinary entitlement, and office towers that are a number of stories higher than anything in the surrounding area, and particularly in the immediately surrounding area. Now, one of the aspects that we've been particularly concerned about is traffic and traffic intrusion. Nothing can be more impacting than the kind of office and retail space that's being proposed here. It's very different. They're talking about doubling the overall density of the Paramount lot to 3.8, almost 3.9 million square feet. As it is, the surrounding neighborhoods are terribly burdened, and the kind of traffic intrusion that would be experienced would be just extraordinary. Now, some of this is recognized in the EIR. The EIR admits that there will be, throughout construction, significant adverse impacts in air quality, in traffic intrusion, even in associated safety issues, noise. The children who are growing up during this period of construction would be breathing bad air. They would be suffering through noise in their classrooms, vibrations. The traffic would be everywhere. They simply wouldn't be able to run and walk with the same kind of safety that they do in the surrounding residential areas. Construction here is not a short-term affair. You all are probably used to construction being over in a reasonable period of time, not in an entire generation and a half later. According to the development agreement, they have 22 years to impose this kind of terrible, significant adverse impacts on the immediately surrounding community.
Thank you. Sharon Kaiser for the applicant.
Good afternoon, Sharon Kaiser with Paramount Pictures. As the previous speaker just mentioned, we were before you last week concerning our 25-year master plan entitlements, which include a specific plan, zone change, general plan amendment, development agreement, and EIR. And your committee voted unanimously to approve those entitlements. And we appreciate your support of this very important project for Paramount. In addition to those entitlements, as staff has mentioned, our master plan includes this tentative track map, which is before you, and it is fully conditioned and consistent with all the other actions that you've already recommended approval for last week. The track map covers just our main lot and one of our ancillary properties. That's the only item before you today. Our main lot is 56 acres in size and has been assembled over 90 years, since Paramount has been at this property for 90 years. As a result, it's comprised of approximately 100 individual small lots today. And we are simply requesting this map in order to consolidate those 100 or so lots into 8 simple lots. The Planning Commission approved our request for this track map. We ask that you deny the appeal and concur with Planning Commission's approval. Thank you.
Thank you. Karen Gilman, Jim Rodarte, and Kathy Simonik.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairperson, members of the Plum Committee, and Department of City Planning leadership and staff. I'm Karen Gilman. I'm a member of the Greater Wilshire Neighborhood Council, and I'm the Secretary of the Larchmont Village Neighborhood Association. I'm here to read again into the record the Greater Wilshire Neighborhood Council statement and to reiterate our opposition to the plan. The Greater Wilshire Neighborhood Council opposes the Paramount Pictures Master Plan, the specific plan, the tentative track map, the Special Sign District, and final environmental impact report. We appreciate that some changes have been made, and we continue to support the appeal, oppose the project, and wish for the tall office towers to be moved to the east, closer to the Bronson Gate. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Jim Rodarte.
Yes, good afternoon, council members. I've lived in Windsor Square for 25 years, and I support the appeal. The traffic mitigation is totally inadequate, especially over the course of 25 years. I'm also concerned about the heavy hauling route on Gower, how it will impact commuter and freeway access. Hauling should be done after hours. Since 2011, we have been requesting Paramount not to use the current fire lane as the new Plymouth Gate entrance, which is right next door to the Windsor Gate entrance, which is half a block away. The traffic gridlock is insane now. We want to keep our neighborhood safe, quiet, peaceful, beautiful, and serene. Please help us. Thank you.
Thank you. Kathy Simonek, Doug Haynes, Susan Cabral Ebert.
Kathy Simonek, a neighbor in Larchmont Village, and I'm on the HPOZ Steering Committee for Larchmont Heights. The tract map is divvying this up for Paramount into about 8 separate lots, which designed to be sold for non-studio use, such as retail, office towers, liquor consumption, and it goes against any goal to keep it for studio use, and Paramount in particular, in Hollywood. The 150-foot office tower should not be allowed at Plymouth. Paramount has expressly allowed it at another location just north of the 4-lane Bronson Gate, immediately across from commercial on all sides and by Raleigh's 5-foot story complex. This resolves height, aesthetic, traffic intrusions, and historical cultural impacts. Thank you.
Thank you. Doug Haynes.
Good afternoon. My name is Doug Haynes. I want to speak about the neighborhood intrusion issues because those are most important to us, and hopefully you can pay a little bit of attention to what I'm speaking about. The project's going to double the number of daily trips, 21,000 a day, and essentially the EIR recognizes that from Sunset to Melrose and from Western to Vine, that's going to be the area that's going to be a significant impact for neighborhood intrusion. That's essentially 121 neighborhood street impacts that are going to be those street segments. There's only $500,000. That's about 1 speed hump for each of those streets. In contrast to the development agreement, CD13 is getting $5 million, and we don't know where any of that money is going. We're only getting $500,000. I've spoken to Sharon about this. I don't necessarily oppose the project, but in the case of Paseo Plaza, which was years ago, we had $900,000 for a much smaller area, and DOT, we had a pre-development agreement, refused to even go forward with our contractual agreement. We had to essentially threaten assume to get the implementation. That's the problem. DOT refuses to actually implement. Thank you.
Thank you. Susan Cabral Ebert, Mickey Jackson, and Julia Duncan from CD4.
Council members, thank you for listening to both sides of this story, and I represent the IATSE members who work at the studio. There are thousands of us, and it hasn't changed in 90 years. What we are working in is an old studio, and times have changed. Not only are the sound stages very, very old, they can create health problems at points and when they get mold, and we need new facilities. We really do. The technology has changed. We're coming closer to more of a digital age, and we have to keep up with the times. I understand the impact of the neighborhood, but they have to also understand the impact for those of us who actually work in these conditions. And I hope we will have your support. Thank you.
Forgive my croak. I have a cold. First of all, main objection I have with this project, I'm with the Coalition to Preserve Los Angeles Neighborhood Integrity Initiative, is that it once again includes something that is patently illegal. It includes a general plan amendment. In 1969, the city charter was updated to prevent general plan amendments in areas this small, and specifically, among the things they were specific about, was not for just one owner. And that means an entity as well that's made up of several people. This is not legal. That seems to be something everybody has a very hard time grasping. I urge you to read the city charter and read the supporting documents in the city charter. They're included in our objection letter to the Palladium. So please stop doing illegal general plan amendments.
Julia Duncan from CD4.
Good afternoon, council members. Julia Duncan, Councilman David Rue's office. The council member would like to express his support for the technical corrections to the letter of determination issued by the Deputy Advisory Agency for the Tentative Track Map. The councilman initially had several issues of concern reiterated by the appellant, but that were addressed by the City Planning Commission in the determination and subsequent corrections. Specifically, over a 100-foot height reduction in the height allowances, inclusion of design regulations within the specific plan pertaining to the 2 ancillary lots in Council District 4 that will ensure both aesthetic compatibility with the surrounding neighborhood. The plan's incorporation of sign regulations in lieu of a sign district and prohibiting digital display signs and supergraphics that will all address the specific concerns of CD4's residential communities to the south of Melrose. Additionally, Neighborhood Protection Plan funds for Larchmont Village Neighborhood Association will begin to address traffic intrusion and congestion. Paramount Pictures brings economic vitality and job creation to Hollywood Studio District. This plan in the tract map will allow Paramount to grow within its project site and accommodate the expanding office and studio space needed to compete in the competitive entertainment industry. Thank you.
Thank you. Colleagues, this is the, we've adopted previously some other entitlements on this. This appeal is yes, let's move to deny and sustain the determination of the CBC in approving the tract map.
There's some findings. There's some findings, though. I think you have a.
Yeah, findings. Should we move in that direction? That I will read into the record. Through this, we will deny the appeal and certify that the EIR
It's a recommendation from the committee to council.
Yes, it's recommended from the committee to council, and the errata have been completed in compliance with the California Environmental Quality Act, the state guidelines, and the city guidelines, and that the city council has reviewed the information contained therein and considered it along with other factors related to this project, that the determination reflects the independent judgment of the City of Los Angeles, and that the documents constituting the record of proceedings in this matter are located in Council File Number 16-0876 in the custody of the City Clerk and in the files of the Department of City Planning, in the custody of the Environmental Review Section, and adopt the Environmental Impact Report. We adopt the findings pursuant to and in accordance with Section 21081.6 of the California State Public Resources Code, the Mitigation Monitoring Program as the findings of council, and adopt the Mitigation Monitoring and Reporting Program. We adopt the findings made pursuant to and in accordance with Section 21081 of the Public Resources Code and the Statement of Overriding Considerations provided by the Planning Department, and adopt the Statement of Overriding Considerations. And we adopt the findings of the Los Angeles City Planning Commission as the findings of the council. Okay. With that, any objections? Seeing none, so ordered. Thank you. Next item, item number 11.
Item 11, Councilman, this is a report from the Central Area Planning Commission. It relates to an appeal filed by the Central City West Organizing Committee. They're basically appealing the determination of the Central APC, the underlying body, as it relates to the specific plan exception for a mixed-use project located in CD1, which contains 102 residential dwelling units, as well as the environmental clearance, the MND.
Okay, thank you. Staff?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Greg Shoup, representing the Planning Department. What the action you have before you is the appeal of the Central Area Planning Commission approval of 3 specific plan exceptions, basically a waiver of the requirement that you have a 15-foot setback along at the residential portions of a building. The project is a 7-story, 77.5-foot high mixed-use building containing 102 dwelling units. 6 of them will be reserved for very low-income tenants for 55 years as part of the density bonus project. But most important, it preserves in place a historic building, the Bob Baker Marionette Theater. It was been determined by the City of Los Angeles that this is now Historical Cultural Monument 958. Part of that requirement was that the project had to integrate the existing buildings, 3 of the main buildings that had the Marionette Theater, and remain in place, and the new building had to be designed around it. So since the specific plan typically is dealing with vacant, empty lots, that's how the rules were designed. It's difficult to build a building and keep this historic building in place without asking for some exceptions. We looked through the appellant's arguments, and these are similar arguments that were brought up to the Area Planning Commission, which the Area Planning Commission considered these arguments and in the end approved the project and granted the exceptions. That they'll bring traffic to the neighborhood. Yes, traffic does come to the neighborhood. However, the Department of Transportation reviewed the traffic study, came to the conclusion that there would be no significant impacts. Again, to make a fair argument, the appellants here need to submit in reasonable, what we call reasonable, substantial evidence that there could be an impact. So we have a traffic expert, our traffic experts, they need to produce a compelling study of their own traffic experts to say that traffic would be impacted. The same is true for the parking. They will exacerbate an existing parking condition. This will not happen, but the thing is that this neighborhood, like most of our neighborhoods, have a bunch of buildings that were built before there were cars. There's a bunch of buildings that relied on the old Red Line subway to get to and fro, so they didn't provide cars. So we have a bunch of buildings that into the 50s only required one car. So you have all these mix of densities, some single-family homes, duplexes, large buildings, 20, 30-unit buildings in this neighborhood, and they don't have adequate parking. We also have the park next door, which is heavily utilized during the weekend. So there's a lot of competition for the street parking, which a lot of residents in the community feel is that space in front of their house is their parking space. But in this case, the project will provide 141 parking spaces. They get to use the enterprise zone, the parking option one from density bonus. They're going to provide 104 long-term bike parking spaces and 14 short-term. One of the new laws that Governor Brown approved was the Shade Shadow Assembly Bill 733, which does not allow us, the city, to consider aesthetics, shade shadow, and other aesthetics considerations for projects that are in transit priority areas. Even though they were exempt from this, they did a shade shadow analysis as part of their application to be forward with their project. And when we looked at that, there was no impact on the surrounding community. They actually, the demise of the theater is going to be maintained, the actual building. There may be a separate agreement with the developer and the current Marionette Theater operators to lease some of the new spaces, but that's a side agreement. The city's not part of that. We don't have any nexus to mandate that. The appeal says that we have this ultimate authority to tell business people who they should rent to, and I don't believe we have that. They did qualify our approval to look at some of the issues with greenhouse gas. We did a greenhouse gas study as part of our environmental. The applicant undertook a third-party independent, which was part of your application package or would have been put in as part of your agenda items. And that came to the same conclusion that our study came to, that we have no impact. The impacts can be mitigated by the current mitigation measures. Traffic, aesthetics, hazardous materials. In the 50s, it was used for auto repair. They did what's called a phase one analysis. This is where you go out, you do the research, you kind of figure out what may be buried in the ground there. They're moving very little dirt. It's going to be mostly at-grade parking, so you don't have 2 or 3 levels of subterranean parking. And at that, the conclusion of the experts was that a phase 2, which would have been involving boring and drilling and testing for contaminations, was not necessary. And the third, or fifth, I guess, action is that wastewater, our pipes, our old infrastructure, for somehow this project will exacerbate the existing condition and cause, just this project alone will cause more failure to the city's pipe system, water pipes and sewer pipes. But when we look at the analysis, we look at the water use in wastewater, for example. We minus the amount of water used from the existing theater with all the kids showing up and so forth. Then we add in the new technologies, such as low flush toilets, water restricting faucets, all the other technology, green technology that developer is required to incorporate into his building by the state Title 24 building codes and our green code and our building codes. And we come to a conclusion that there's going to be less than a significant impact. I'm here for questions.
Any questions? No questions? Okay, thank you. We'll go to public comment. I have not identified or cannot identify the applicant or the appellant in the public comment cards. Is the appellant here? Okay. Are you the appellant of record? What's your name? And you filed the appeal? Who did? What's your attorney's name? Dean Walrath? Okay. Sure, you want to come up and speak as the appellants? 5 minutes. Your name is Alex Evans, and who else? Just Alex Evans? Okay.
No, Alex Evans is a different person.
Okay, Alex Evans. Okay.
My name is Albert Sabate.
Pardon me?
Albert Sabate.
Oh, it's not Alex Evans. Albert, did you fill out a card?
Yes, I
Oh,
did.
yeah, here it is. Okay. So you're representing to us today that you are the appellant, but the appeal was filed by your attorney, Dean Walrath.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you. You have 5 minutes.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for taking the time to hear our concerns with this project. My concerns, or the community's concerns, are multiple. Primarily, we're requesting that there be further study for this project, specifically an environmental impact report be required to proceed with this. There are multiple variances being requested here, and we would like there to be more study regarding the impact of what this will have on the community. As you know, this is just adjacent to the Edward R. Roybal Learning Center, which was the school which was a fiasco in how many millions of dollars was thrown at it to solve the methane problems and the many problems that were there. This 7-story building will go up in an area where there are 1- and 2-story buildings, some apartments, some homes. And it will have a very significant impact, a profound change on our neighborhood. If you have reviewed the materials for this project, you'll find that there's conflicting expert testimony when it comes to the historic preservation. And these are things that have been pointed out by the, not just myself, but by the attorneys for the theater, the Bob Baker Marionette Theater. Also, the reports that have been created are unsatisfactory. The transportation study only looked at some of the intersections, but in fact, this is where Glendale, this is the old site of the Belmont Station, where Glendale, First, Lucas, and Beverly, and Toluca, and Second, and Douglas all intersect. So it's a very complicated intersection, and you may remember it has a viaduct on Beverly. So the transportation study that was conducted was unsatisfactory and needs to look at the intersections. For example, where the cars will be coming in and out of the parking for this building. 141 cars, which will be coming in and out directly at the intersection of Toluca and Douglas, and that was not addressed in the report. So another few concerns here is that the process here has been lacking. There has not been outreach for the primarily Hispanic monolingual community, and the public hearings have been at daytime hours, while most of the residents there are working. So the recommendation that was put together by Hearing Officer Shoup has a few dismisses rather than discusses the concerns that we've raised, and that's why we're appealing here to you today. So please, based on the fact that there's conflicting expert testimony, that is reason enough to require further study for this important project. I understand that there's a homeless crisis and we have in the city, and we want to address that, but I would hope that we address that by building more affordable housing and not opening up the door for luxury single room or loft housing in a single and two-story neighborhood community. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Is there the applicant here or the representative? Paul Anderson?
Yes, thank you very much. The applicant, Eli Elimek, is here with me. I am the attorney representing the owner and the architect for this project. We submitted a letter that rebuts the allegations of the appellant, and I want to focus just on 3 items. Number 1 is that this project is consistent in scale and height, massing with the Belmont Station apartment complex, which is just right across the Beverly Boulevard Bridge, the overpass. This is a unique part of that Echo Park area because of the fact that it's buttressed by that overpass. Not a very sightly area. This is going to be a vast improvement, particularly for the park that's to the north. The second thing is that there was an independent greenhouse gas emissions study that rebuts the allegations that were made in the appellant's letter of appeal. There is no emissions that are past the LADOT standards. The third is that this is a mixed-use project that has specifically been designed to protect the Bob Baker Marionette Theater. If you look at the reasons that the Area Planning Commission gave for the exceptions to the specific plan, they were designed to accommodate the historical features of the Bob Baker Marionette Theater. We have a long-term arrangement with the theater, and we look forward to having this project finally approved so we can get underway. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We will call a recess now. We have to clarify some fair hearing issues that I've been advised about. We could just call this meeting to recess now. Go now to public comment on this item. Amy Minter, Winona Betley, and Alex Evans.
Good afternoon. My name is Amy Mintier. I'm here with Chatton Brown and Karstens on behalf of the Friends of Bob Baker Marionette Theater. We are supportive of this project with the inclusion of the theater as part of the project. And we understand that there is a lease negotiations going on and they're going well. What we're here today to do is ask you to recognize the historic significance of the continued operation of the theater at its historic location, and recognize that the site derives its historic significance from the use of this site by the theater. And this position is urged by several historic resource experts that have submitted comments in the record. The chair of the Cultural Heritage Commission and the Secretary of Interior Standards provide for this as well. And based on that historic significance, you have the authority to impose mitigation and conditions to ensure that the theater can be a part of this project. We also ask the city to provide any necessary accommodations to ensure that the theater can be made part of this project. Thank you.
Winona. Alex Evans and Orlando Valle.
Hi, good afternoon, council members. My name is Winona Bechtel, and I'm working with the Bob Baker Marionette Theater on best nonprofit practices, and I'm here to speak in support of the theater's agreement with the developer, and also a little bit as to the preparations we're taking to make sure this is a sustainable space continuing on in that location. One of the things we're doing right now is conducting bi-weekly meetings, building a diverse and cross-sector fundraising board. And with this board, we plan to identify further fundraising sources and just continue to strengthen the theater so we can continue on in that space, making connections with the community and further ensuring the historical significance of staying in the location it's been in since 1963. Thank you.
Thank you. Alex Evans.
Hello, my name is Alex Evans. I'm the head puppeteer and creative director at the theater right now. And it's, since Bob passed away, it's me and this collective of awesome people who are keeping it going, and it's going great. And we're here supporting this project moving forward. And quite frankly, everything Rihanna was just talking about, it's a fragile transition, so any delays in this project is not in the benefit of the theater. What I'm really interested in, what my heart of hearts and this nexus of opinion that I think of the community feels, it's the cultural value of the theater. We have grandparents that came as kids, that brought their kids, and then bringing their grandkids. And that's like important. That's like crucial to what should be LA. We are content and happy with the deal we're working out with the developer. In this plan as forward, the theater will survive. Bob and the puppets will live on, and like I'm banking my livelihood on that. I wish that the city would recognize the use of the theater in its things, but I don't want the project delayed. I want it to go forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Orlando Valle and Daria Ovide.
Hi. I'm just here to represent the parking structure that's right on the structure where they're going to build. I grew up in the neighborhood. I know how the neighborhood works. And pretty much this building that's going to go up, it's going to be something better for the community, because it's, if you notice, that section right there is a lot of gang activity and everything, and once everything starts changing, it impacts the community. Now, I represent the parking, auto parks, that's right there, and we've been working with that community for years now. And I know that for a fact that once this building goes up, it's going to do a positive impact on the parking lot. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Daria Ovide. I'm in a butter. My windows look directly over the park entrance and the future building site. I'm here because I support the appeal. I'm really concerned about how the mitigated negative declaration was put together, particularly on the traffic study, specifically on the safety issues. As Albert Sabate mentioned, there's no study on the de facto intersections of where the entrance to Vista Hermosa Park meets Toluca Street. Children are coming in and out of there. Cars are turning left and right out of there, as well as coming up Toluca Street barreling down the hill at Toluca Street. There's no study there of the traffic impact on safety there, as well as the intersection of Toluca, Douglas, and First Street. We've got different stop signs, but, I hear tires squeal regularly as people stop because they haven't been paying attention. And I'm really concerned, and I think it's reasonable to request further traffic study. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Cedillo?
Yes, we are recommending to deny the appeal. We have been working with the community in these groups. A series of meetings have been conducted. The appeal was a 3-hour hearing, and it's been denied. As you know, you were president of the school board when we, the political class, collaborated and built close to half a dozen new schools in that area. There is a pronounced and profound need for housing, for teachers, for workforce housing, for professionals. This has some affordability involved in it, but as you know, the housing crisis requires us to build housing not just for the most vulnerable, but for the entire workforce, and this essentially does that and provides opportunities, for example, for new teachers to live near where they would work. The developer has basically done gymnastics to figure out a way to work within the framework of the existing Bob Baker Theater. Its history, its cultural significance is well known and well established, and they have continued to figure out ways to have sustainability both with the theater and yet be able to develop their structure. As you know, that intersection is an extraordinary intersection, and so in a normal neighborhood, if you said we're going to build, I don't know what the number is, 100 and, what's the number of units? 102. If we're going to build 102 units in a normal neighborhood, you would say, well, that would have some impact, but this is one of the most interesting intersections in the city because it's where several streets come together, Glendale, First, Second, Beverly, Toluca, and so it's an intersection that has a lot of activity. The addition of 102 new cars or 130 new cars would be negligible given the nature of that community. My staff has worked hard to try to bring all sides together, and I applaud them. I appreciate the participation of the community involved in this, but we're at the point where we have to go forward, and so we recommend that the appeal, that the denial of the appeal be sustained.
So the motion is to deny appeal and sustain the Central APC's determination. Any objections? Seeing no objections to that, so ordered. Thank you. Item number 2.
Item 2, Councilman, this is a report from City Planning relative to a system for updating community plans, a batching general plan amendments, EIR consultants, and technology plans.
Welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon, committee members. Craig Weber, City Planning staff. The item before you today is a report back on the tails of the department's May 2016 report, which touched on 4 topics. Just by way of summary, those were a system for updating community plans in light of the department's recently adopted and expanded community plan budget. There's also a system for batching of general plan amendment requests. The report addressed EIR consultancy and gave recommendations, and it also provided an overview of the department's technology plan. At the May 2016 meeting, the committee asked for a report back on 4 topics, which I will walk through one at a time here. So first, the committee asked for potential code and or charter language that could be used in support of the general plan and community planning program. So draft language that could be incorporated into a charter amendment is included in the report before you. This language essentially mirrors similar language that was used by the council in support of the libraries department in 2011. So essentially what it would do would support the department's long-range planning function by mandating that an appropriate annual sum of revenue is put towards the program, and that would be equivalent to a percentage of assessed property value in the city. So In light of the department's conceived 10-year program, that percentage was just under 0.005%, but more on that in just a moment. I do want to reiterate that the department's community plan program is moving forward, and that the charter language could certainly augment our efforts today, but would not be required or is recommended by the department. Additionally, the committee asked what sort of additional resources would be needed by the department to accelerate this 10-year program into a 6-year program. So having worked with the CAO, generally it's believed that the current $7.5 million program would need to be increased by $3.5 million to an overall $11 million program. And that would be essentially to add 2 more teams into the mix. You might remember that essentially we had envisioned 3 regional teams that would tackle groups of community plans at a time. So this would bring an overall total of 5 teams into the mix. In the event that the council wanted to go in this direction, we would want to look at changing that 0.005% in the charter language. That would actually need to be 0.007 for a 6-year cycle. And in the report, there's a lot of nuance into years and how this all rolls out, but in the event that we want to accelerate, the department is recommending a 7-year scheme in light of the community plan work that is already underway in the city. And then I do want to also touch on that the CAO did recommend changing the development fee surcharge from 5 to 7% as well. The committee also asked for some definition in terms of procedures for general plan amendment initiation. So there is language included in the report there as well. In a nutshell, general plan amendments by and large are initiated by either the Director of Planning or the Council or the City Planning Commission. So it's really an administrative function on the part of the department and the director. So we would want to create a memo that essentially says this is how general plan amendments will be batched. So that language remains, it's in the report. We're sticking with the 2-month intervals twice a year for geographic areas, and then there's necessary caveats for either erroneous plan designations that need to be amended for 100% affordable housing projects and for critical public works projects that may need a general plan amendment more timely than the 2-month, twice-a-year schedule conceived of in the report. Lastly, the committee asked for some administrative clarity as to how it would roll out the EIR recommendation. So let me just give a quick summary of what that recommendation was. The previous May report that we offered gave 4 scenarios for EIR consultancy. Scenario 1 was essentially a status quo where the department would continue to vet an applicant's consultant work in an EIR. Option 2, which seemed to find traction at the last committee meeting, would have required that an applicant hire a CEQA consultant off of the department's bench list of CEQA consultants that we already have. Option 3 would have actually given that the department would essentially indicate who you're going to hire as an applicant off of our list. And then option 4 would be the same as option 3, but billing would also be handled directly through the city. So in our May report, we indicated that each of these were feasible options. Option 4, the one where billing happens through the city, I think we'd want to provide a little bit further input on the administrative overhead involved in that. I don't think any of us wants to be in a position where there's a bottleneck of billing and consultant contract management in the department. So we certainly want to be clear about what the needs are there. But in particular, option 2 and option 3 are, for lack of a better term, shovel-ready. So there's a draft memo provided in your report in support of option 2, but I'm aware that there's been a lot of ongoing discussion around these options throughout the city family. So that concludes my report back. I'm also prepared to give a brief update on the status of community plans today, if the committee so desires.
We'll hear from the public, and then we'll go back to questions. Alicia Woodsling, Marie Ramsey, and Christine Rangel.
I'm short, so I have to lower it. Good afternoon, council members. Alicia Witzling with the LA Area Chamber of Commerce. I want to commend planning for taking this initiative up and really running with it, and the council members who put the motion forward to update how we process community plans. We think that the regional grouping of community plans is a good strategy moving forward. We welcome a 6-year update rather than a 10-year update. We also, support the staging of the schedule, and it's a decent proposal that draws on more than just the age of the community plan. We also welcome a more frequent strategy of GPA calendar grouping, and we are in support, I wanted to highlight, of hybrid of option 2, the EIR prep. The EIR prep should remain prepared by consultants, as we've mentioned in previous comments. It should remain prepared by consultants or in-house professionals of the developer. However, the city should consider a bench of consultants for third-party review that report to the city. This will help alleviate the pressure of review of the documents in periods of high volume. Wow, that was quick. Thanks.
Thank you. Marie Ramsey.
Good afternoon, Marie Ramsey here on behalf of the Central City Association, and we are also in full agreement in support of City Planning's report. We think option 2 is the best option to move forward with for EIR preparation, and we thank you for your time today.
Good afternoon, Christine Rangel with the Building Industry Association, Los Angeles, Ventura. We appreciate the Department of City Planning's efforts and their staff for their staff reports, and we applaud the City Council, the Plum Committee, and the Mayor for their commitments to update community plans. We welcome a 6-year update, and we support option 2 because we think this is the best strategy to move development forward reliably. Thank you.
Thank you. Patricia McAllister. No, ma'am, this is item number 2.
Report from the Department of Planning for system update, community plans, batching plan amendments. We need this online. This city is, I think, 50 or 60 years behind in technology. I need to be able to go online and see all of this, the environmental impact reports, consultants, and we don't need to be allocating money every 6 months or a year to all of these different departments when we don't know where the money is going. I have never seen a council in a city as backwards as this city and all the money you have with over $1 billion for the attorneys. Now, I just did a Freedom of Information Act with the attorneys, and I got the breakdown of what's going on over there. I want an investigation. But anyway, my comment for number 2 is we need to get this online so that I can, and other Americans can go and see it. And I think we can do that when we get some Republicans on this council. Thank you.
Okay, if we could ask staff to come back up, please. Well, thank you for your report. As you know, this is some very critical direction we're going for the planning of this city and the quality of life with respect to ensuring that we update all our community plans. I think a large part of the reason why we have some folks putting forth ballot initiatives to stop the city from doing general plan amendments is because we have no updated plans, and despite the fact that moving in the occasion when we do have these general plan amendments, we're kind of moving with the general direction of what that neighborhood is moving to. It does not comply with the community plans because we haven't updated them. So we need to know what direction neighborhoods are going in with the public participation, and I think we'd have less people concerned about how many general plan amendments we're making should we have updated community plans in place. So I want to commend you for your work. I do have a couple of report backs. Our intention is to continue this discussion and be back in 2 weeks. But for now, if you could come back with a report back to see what, if any, legal or conflict of interest issues should we be concerned with for any of the EIR processing options we've discussed thus far. Just make sure we have those before us with respect to any option we should choose. And second, regarding the charter or ordinance amendments, please include the time frame for update cycles to accompany the budgetary commitments that are identified in today's report. Any other questions or comments? No. It's Mr. Price.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know this discussion has been going on for some time, and it looks like there is a consensus building around option 2, which makes a lot of sense. But just a couple of general questions. How are these consultants going to be chosen? What kind of process do you envision? And how do we make sure that it's a diverse group of consultants so that we don't just get the same folks doing the same things? How can we make sure that this opportunity is really expanded and gives us a chance to get the best?
Certainly. Craig Weber, planning staff, and welcome to the committee, by the way. So the department, I want to say every 5 years, but periodically the department refreshes its, what we tend to call the bench list for consultants through a request for qualifications. So this is sent out industry-wide. Hundreds of consultants submit relatively thick bids explaining who they are, the type of work they do, and how they're qualified to do CEQA work in the city. We deal with consultants on a range of other topics, but we'll focus on CEQA for today. So there's internal review of all of the bids, and ultimately a list of, we have roughly, I want to say approximately 30 consultants on our bench list today out of the probably 100 or so who apply. And then that list is refreshed periodically so that we can ensure that we have firms that still exist, that are well qualified, that we're reevaluating if the track record has been a little bumpy with a certain consultant and so on. So that's kind of a general overview. We can certainly provide some more in-depth as far as the number of consultants, what the turnover rate looks like, et cetera. But generally, we're looking at the qualifications of the firm, best practices, their track record in Los Angeles, their track record in other major cities.
No, I think that's a good filter. I think we should also just be looking at how diverse these teams are also, and I think it's a goal that we should look toward trying to expand.
Kevin Keller, City Planning, just one thing. Currently, we do have a bench list, as Craig said, for the department's work, as we would consider, if needed, expanding this to include a wider range of bench lists that would be used by the applicants. We would likely reopen our process immediately to try to do that outreach, make sure everyone's aware of this new opportunity, and certainly work with the entire city team to get as far and wide of a reach as we could.
Yeah. No, I just think we should, because if you do it every 5 years, I mean, things get kind of stale and folks get disenchanted, and I just think there should be a more rolling process, if you will, so that individuals who are qualified, who meet all the qualifications.
And I do want to add there's a multitude of things that are being scored, so the diversity of the firm is one of the factors that we are looking at.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, that question, Mr. Price, very important for us to value that as we move forward in whatever option we move forward to. Anyone else?
Let me echo the comments of Senator Price with respect to option 2. I think it makes the best sense for us to move forward with the incredible challenges we have. I also concur that we should look, and I know there are qualified people out in the field that would create a diverse bench so that we make sure that we create enough options for the industry to go forward and address the concerns, move beyond the abuses that have been taking place, and then move forward to help build the 100,000 units of housing that we need. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So we'll continue this item for 2 weeks and get it back in committee for an update and see where we are with the discussion. Mr. Englander.
Thank you. Just one question. In terms of the various options on the EIR as well, it really sounds like option 2 and 3 are the options for consideration, outside of 1 being the status quo and 4 being the city actually hiring somebody and then billing and becoming a nightmare and getting Con Ed involved and costs and staff of oversight. So looking at those, on option 3, where the department or some entity within the city would pick and assign a firm. Is there anything else like that? I can't think of anything where an outside independent under due process would be filing something to be processed with the city. I'm just trying to think of a model and saying, okay, you can go ahead and do this, but we're going to assign, even the sidewalk thing we just got through, the selection, if you wanted to hire a vendor to have your sidewalk fixed or repaired, we'd give you a list. We have the same thing with the gas shutoff valve, as an example, because I've been racking my brain trying to figure out where we would say...
Retrofits.
Retrofits is a great example. Here's an approved list. Under every scenario that I can think of, we would vet and have a regular approval process of who in the space is out there, legal, and certified, up to date, and we would provide the list and saying, here's who you have to select from. But I can't think of any scenarios where, and I can't even think of a wonder where the scenario would be legally for us to assign somebody they would have to hire. Have we gotten any legal opinions back on that yet?
Councilman, really good question, Kevin Keller. I think the difference here is that the CEQA document process is a city-controlled process. The actual result is a city document. When the document in EIR is issued, it's a City of Los Angeles document.
I understand that.
Yeah, go ahead.
I understand that.
Yeah.
Are there any scenarios in which we have to tell independent... You don't have to answer it. I don't want to put you on the spot.
Sure, no.
If you can come back, we're coming back anyway in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
Because I've been trying to rack my brain trying to think of... And I understand the end result is different than some of the scenarios I laid out.
We can look at...
I get that.
Yeah.
I'm only trying to get in front of, if that's the direction we go in, all of a sudden, there's more litigation.
We will check with other city processes.
And it doesn't have to come back to this committee, just unless my colleagues also have an interest in that answer. But I'm interested in the discussion because I like that idea, but I'm just not sure.
We will bring back, many cities do function that way, that they actually do select.
Any of them been challenged?
No.
Okay.
I mean,
So
I'll have to triple check. Let me take
me
that
know.
back, but let me
We'll
look
have
into
that
that for you.
conversation. Okay.
Got it.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you. So we will hear this item in 2 weeks. We'll continue this item with no objection. Thank you. That leaves general public comment as the last remaining item. We have no cards on that, so this meeting is adjourned. Thank you. I do not have one, Miss McAllister.